us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Romancing. On Tuesday, the governor's financial team provided an update before the Senate Finance Committee, which was the first committee hearing of the 30th legislature. What does fiscal year 2013 look like? News 2's Erica Bivens brings us this report.
There's a projected budget shortfall of $26.3 million.
Testifying before the Senate Finance Committee Tuesday, the governor's financial team outlined amped-up revenue collection initiatives. They also stated,
"It is expected that 2 real property tax years will be billed and collected in fiscal year 2013. The calendar year 2011 bills are expected to be issued by the end of February 2013, and the calendar year 2012 bills issued in July 2013.
Projected real property tax collections for 2013 totals $102 million, of which $20 million is projected to be delinquent, compared to 2012, where $105 million was collected with $17 million delinquent. Revaluations are also expected to be completed this year, which means taxpayers will continue to see the 1998 rate through calendar year 2012 bills. Past expenditure savings measures were also addressed, from the retirement incentive, 8% salary reduction, and dismissals, to the more recent measures including an intensified hiring freeze and 5% cut in each department's budget. However,
all our efforts have been quickly eroded by the increasing cost of our health insurance plan.
Between fiscal year 2007 and December, our health insurance plan has increased 61%. In years past, plan changes helped reduce costs, but those options are no longer available.
Due to the provision of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, which, if taken, will result in our plan losing its grandfather status, we could incur a cost of $2.2 million.
There's also concerns with unemployment, which reached 17% in December for St. Croix, while St. Thomas St. John hit 9.9%.
Despite the many economic, financial, and fiscal challenges facing the Virgin Islands, the economic outlook for the territory is promising as overall employment begins to stabilize.
Even still, Gottlieb says additional legislation will be needed. According to Gottlieb, the governor plans to meet with his financial team before submitting legislation for the Senate to consider. For News 2, I'm Erica Bivens.
In September, the government sold matching fund bonds, raising $130 million in working capital to keep the government afloat through fiscal year 2014. $70 million was utilized in fiscal year 2012, $35 million for 2013, and $25 million for 2014. Senator Alicia Hansen said the cries of the business community can no longer be ignored because businesses are constantly closing their doors due to the high energy costs and also being saddled with high taxes for operating a business in the territory, and has therefore drafted and submitted legislation which will provide some relief to the business community. The proposed legislation will authorize and direct the Director of the Internal Revenue Bureau to offset the gross receipts and excise tax liability of any person or business operating in the Virgin Islands against any amount of money that the government of the U.S. Virgin Islands owes to that person or business. Additionally, the proposed bill seeks to require the Lieutenant Governor to offset a property owner's property tax liability against any amount of money that the government of the Virgin Islands owes to that property owner. Police on St. Croix arrested 26-year-old Javan Felix Sunday evening and charged him with possession of an unlicensed firearm. Police say they were conducting an investigation in the Sand Farm area when they encountered Felix. After speaking with him, police found an illegal weapon was in his possession. Felix was arrested and placed on a $25,000 bail. He was remanded to the Golden Grove Correctional Facility pending further court action. Seaborne Airlines is expanding its wings. The St. Croix-based carrier announced Tuesday that the company will be adding 3 new routes within the Caribbean from San Juan's airport. But they've also announced some big changes from American Airlines partnership. News 2's Erica Parsons has that story.
Since American Eagle's announcement that they'd be pulling out of the territory this April, Seaborne officials have expressed a desire to fill the void left when Eagle leaves. Tuesday's announcement puts them in a position to do just that. Effective April 1st, Seaborne Airlines will offer nonstop service to Dominica, Martinique, and Guadeloupe from San Juan. 3 new Saab planes will make that possible.
There is a bit of a vacuum right now, and we are moving into markets that have been vacated by American Eagle, and in this particular case, Dominica, Fort de France, and Pointe à Pitre. The sub is a 34-seat plane with flight attendant, with laboratories on board, and we're going to give everyone just great service.
The new routes will join service to St. Thomas, St. Croix, San Juan, Vieques, Tortola, and Virgin Gorda for a total of 9 Caribbean destinations, with future plans to add more.
We are interested in growing and expanding throughout the Caribbean. Of course, this is all good news to the Virgin Islands, being a Virgin Island headquartered firm, and that the jobs that we add are right here in the Virgin Islands.
And after today, baggage transfer will be easier between Seaborne and American Airlines.
Today we launched announced an interline program that is in effect with American, where we will be connecting bags on the ramp. As one of the stages, we'll be issuing boarding passes on American Airlines. And we're working with American whereby they will start selling our flights on their own website, aa.com. So we're proud to be working with American Airlines and do plan on working with some other carriers as well.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
4 new SOBs will be added by summer to the 5 twin otters in the fleet. Seaborne officials say there will be more announcements coming later from their collaboration with American Airlines. This week is National Entrepreneurship Week, and to celebrate, the U.S. Small Business Administration is hosting a series of free webinars to teach entrepreneurs about urban farming and an alternative funding source to get their business off the ground called crowdfunding. News2's Alicia John brings us more.
Over the next few days, small business owners in the territory will learn of another way to start and grow their businesses, as the U.S. Small Business Administration will host a series of free webinars in celebration of National Entrepreneurship Week.
SBA is celebrating the 7th National Entrepreneurship Week, and in so doing, we're hosting a series of webinars. The purpose is to make the community aware of the broad base of financing options that they have. You don't have to go just to a bank and get a loan to do business financing.
Webinars will host 3 days of topics, giving small business owners insight on urban farming and an alternative finance option called crowdfunding.
The webinars will revolve around crowdfunding, which we'll do on Tuesday today. We'll discuss the pro and cons of crowdfunding, and then on Wednesday we'll go back to crowdfunding again and discuss the innovations of it, and then on Thursday we'll deal with urban farming. So there are really 3 different and unique topics that we'll be tackling.
Not only are the webinars free for the public to attend, but it aims to encourage entrepreneurs to get new projects off the ground.
If they have a project and perhaps they don't have the credit capability to get a bank loan or something like that, crowdfunding financing can meet that need. It gives our community an opportunity to look at different options.
Janisha John, News 2.
The free webinars will continue on Tuesday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Individuals interested in joining should dial 1-888-858-2144 and then enter access code 4259370 followed by the # to enter. In less than 2 weeks, drastic automatic government spending cuts will kick in unless Washington lawmakers find a solution. President Obama is once again pushing Congress to avoid the latest so-called fiscal cliff. Danielle Nottingham is at the White House.
President Obama surrounded himself with police and firefighters to send a message to Congress. He says emergency workers are just one group that will lose jobs unless lawmakers avoid the latest fiscal deadline. $85 billion in cuts, known as the sequester, are set to take effect in 10 days, impacting almost every Washington agency.
FBI agents will be furloughed. Thousands of teachers and educators will be laid off.
And the Pentagon faces the biggest cuts, about $46 billion. Former Senator Sam Nunn was the chairman of the Armed Services Committee.
The way they've cut the defense budget is the worst possible way, and it's the most inefficient way, and it's the way that will do the most damage to our security.
The White House says these cuts are so steep they could derail the struggling economy. The president wants Congress to pass a debt solution that includes spending cuts and tax increases. But many Republicans have no interest in more tax hikes after agreeing to an increase during the last fiscal cliff negotiation.
Let me be very clear, and I'd say this to the president as I say it to you. These spending cuts are going to go through on March 1st. Taxes are off the table.
Washington lawmakers created this deadline, believing it would force them to reach a broad budget deal. They're on vacation this week, leaving just a few days to try and find a solution when Congress returns next week. Danielle Nottingham, News 2.
Today, the chairs of a deficit reduction commission proposed a plan to cut the deficit more than $2 trillion through healthcare reform and closing tax loopholes. Keeping our eye on the economy, Google made history today when its stock topped $800 for the first time. The milestone came more than 5 years after Google's shares initially crossed $700. Analysts say the stock rise is a show of confidence in the company's leadership. Google stock is up 35% since co-founder Larry Page replaced Eric Schmidt as CEO nearly 2 years ago. This is the New York Stock Exchange with Scotiabank's stock market watch. The Dow, Nasdaq, S&P all up. The Dow 53, Nasdaq 21, S&P 11. Coming up on News 2, here's a Black History quiz. In 2001, she was appointed National Security Advisor by President George W. Bush, becoming the first Black woman and second woman to hold that post. The answer is coming up next. Well, today, February 19th, would have been the birthday of Nigel O'Hodge. Nigel came home one day from school with a lump under his arm. His mother took him to the doctor. He was misdiagnosed, and later on he got really sick and eventually diagnosed as having a form of cancer called Hodgkin's disease. Nigel passed away. His parents, Josephine and Chester, started a foundation in his honor, the Nigel O'Hodge Foundation, and this past weekend they hosted a birthday party for over 200 children at the Lockhart Elementary School. The foundation honored several organizations that work with the Virgin Islands youth, such as Girls on the Go, Weed and Seed, Junior Firefighters, the Boys and Girls Club, the Boys Rites of Passage, and the Seaview Children Unit. 3 local health centers were recognized nationally for their healthcare quality improvement achievements. Last month, both the Frederiksted Healthcare and St. Thomas East End Medical Center were rewarded with the PSPC Transformation Award. That was for their efforts and improvements in the Patient Safety and Clinical Pharmacy Services Collaborative. The Virgin Islands Medical Institute was awarded the Quality Improvement Organization Partner Award for their assistance to both health centers. Well, following 3 days of agricultural and cultural events and over 25,000 visitors, the 42nd Annual Agriculture and Food Fair has come to an end following a successful weekend, and officials have already started putting the grounds back to normal until next year.
We're happy to say that after all these years, we're still growing, still incident-free, and still really a big part of our efforts to push the industry of agriculture. I want to give an extra special thanks to the hard-working, skillful team here at the Department of Agriculture, because they're the ones who every year transform our grounds from what you see during the year to the beautiful premises that you see for the 3 days doing AgriFest. And they are right now working to get it back into normal operational procedures, and we can't say thank you enough.
In our Black History moment, Condoleezza Rice was born on November 14, 1954 in Birmingham, Alabama. She grew up surrounded by racism in the segregated South. Raised by her minister father and school teacher mother, Condoleezza's father held a position at the University of Denver. Earning her BA in only a couple of years, she went on to receive a master's degree from the University of Notre Dame in political science, which saw her as an instant candidate to work for the United States Department. By the time she was 26, she had earned her PhD in political science from Denver. Following, she worked at Stanford University, and Dr. Rice soon became provost. Rice and was in charge of the school's multi-billion-dollar endowment. She became National Security Advisor to the Bush presidency in 2001. She became Bush's National Security Advisor in 2004, and with the resignation of Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice became the U.S. Secretary of State until 2009. Stick around, your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.